How should you go about the process of finding what to eat, how to prep the food, and how to properly nourish your body if nothing sounds good to eat? If nothing sounds good to eat, there could be a lot of reasons for this. But today we're going to focus on why nothing sounds good to eat when we experience things like disordered eating or an eating disorder. So, first and foremost, know that there are actual biological changes if you have an eating disorder that might make food sound unappealing. So, for example, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, such as a zinc deficiency, can actually alter the taste of food, which might make a lot of foods seem unappealing. Another thing that can happen is that we might have delayed gastric emptying, which can cause us to feel full all the time or just after one or two bites of food, which who wants to eat when they're full, right? So that might also make food seem very unappealing. The practices that we have around food when we have an eating disorder is what complicates our relationship with food, what foods sound appealing, and what foods we want to choose based on the desires of our eating disorder. Our eating disorder might set certain foods as being off limits. These are called food rules, and these foods might manifest as what we call fear foods. If you want to know more about fear foods, definitely check out my video on fear foods, and I'll drop the link below. Now, with fear foods, these foods might be foods that might sound appealing, but our eating disorder won't allow us to have. So sometimes we have to work with a qualified healthcare team to help us implement these fear foods into our daily routines. If food doesn't sound good, it likely is because you are trying to only choose from a very select list of what we call safe foods or foods that our eating disorder will allow. And these foods are probably becoming very tiresome and after a time will also become very unappealing. So, for example, if your eating disorder doesn't allow any carbohydrates, added sugars, or certain types of foods, especially foods higher in caloric value, then that can really limit the amount of foods that we might be choosing from one day to the next. And that is going to cause a lot of food fatigue. This is the case for many individuals with an eating disorder, which can make it really difficult to follow an eating disorder recovery meal plan when that time comes into play. Another thing that can happen is when somebody has an eating disorder, they are just physically exhausted. They're also mentally exhausted because there is not enough energy in the body. And also, our brain actually shrinks and changes as we have an eating disorder. And this makes it really hard to make decisions around food and also know what sounds appealing. So, if you are an individual that has an eating disorder, you might need to gather the support of a friend or family member to help you make food choices in the beginning. If you don't have that available, or if you're progressed further in the recovery journey, what I usually encourage, if food just doesn't sound appealing, is trying to find those simple foods. Foods that I say should be less work to prepare than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Because after all, our body and our brain is just very fatigued. So we want to nourish the body in the simplest way that we possibly can if we simply do not feel like we have the capabilities to prepare a full-fledged meal that's going to take a long time. So some things that I suggest are things like quesadillas with sides or added veggies in that quesadilla, yogurt with granola and fruit that can be very simple to prepare, a frozen meal, hopefully with some things added onto the side, some milk, some veggies, things like that, where it's going to bulk up that meal a little bit, but not require a lot of additional effort on our part. Prepared meals are fantastic if things just do not sound good, but you know you are needing to nourish your body. Another great trick for this is going to a deli and selecting pasta salads and other goodies that you can keep in your fridge and mix and match when you're feeling food fatigue, but you know that you need to nourish your body. Just know if food doesn't sound good and you are recovering from an eating disorder, this is totally normal. And as much as we can, we want to enact the meal support from a family or friend or even a professional support group to help us to nourish. Choosing those simple foods, if we don't have that available, can be a great asset and nourishing, even if food doesn't sound good. If you found this video helpful, make sure that you like and subscribe below so that you don't miss any new content that will help you heal your relationship with food.